Jesus spoke about something he never explained. Not once. He pointed to it. He demonstrated it. He became it in front of those who had eyes to see. But he never gave it a name. He never turned it into doctrine. He never made it safe enough to be written down and carried forward by institutions that would later claim to speak for him. This was not because it was too complicated. It was because explanation would have destroyed it. The moment you try to teach unity, you create separation. The moment you name the unnameable, it becomes an object outside of you, something to believe in, something to seek, something you do not yet have. And that is exactly what Jesus refused to do. But here is what they will not tell you. The reason he never explained it will only make sense once you understand what was deliberately removed from the teachings that survived. What you are about to discover was not lost by accident. It was reclassified, hidden inside language that sounds safe but points to something that would have ended the need for everything they built in his name. And something inside you already knows this. You have felt this before. A moment where everything made sense, but you could not explain why. A silence that felt more true than any prayer you were taught to say. A sudden knowing that you were not separate from what you were seeking. And then it passed. And the church told you it was grace, or a blessing, or the Holy Spirit visiting you for a moment before retreating back into heaven. But that is not what it was. What you felt was not given to you. It was not sent from above. It was not a reward for belief or obedience. It was the collapse of the illusion that you were ever separate to begin with. Christianity became a religion of belief. You were told what to think about God, what to say, what to confess, what to fear. The entire structure was built on the assumption that you are distant from the divine and that someone else holds the keys to close that distance. Priests, sacraments, scriptures interpreted by authorities, a mediator between you and the Father. But Jesus never taught mediation. He taught immediacy. And here is what matters. The teaching was not erased. It was relocated, turned into metaphor, made poetic, beautiful to hear, but safe enough to ignore. What was once a direct transmission became a story you could admire without ever having to live. He did not come to build a bridge between you and God. He came to show you that there was never a gap, that the kingdom of God is not a location, not a reward, not a future event. It is within you, right now, always. But teachings like that cannot be controlled. They cannot be structured into creeds or confined to Sunday services. They cannot survive in systems that depend on your sense of lack, and so they were quietly set aside. Not destroyed, just made optional, mystical, poetic, beautiful, but not essential. You were taught to love Jesus, to believe in his sacrifice, to wait for his return, but you were never taught to become what he was, and you feel this. You feel the gap between what was said and what was meant, between the religion you were given and the truth you keep brushing up against in the silence. You are here because that gap has become unbearable. What you are about to hear next is the teaching that could not survive translation. Let me describe something to you. Before thought, there is awareness. Before identity, there is presence. Before you became a name, a story, a self that moves through time, there was something else. Not a thing, not an entity, not even a consciousness in the way we use that word. Just pure, undivided, whole. It has no edges, no beginning, no end. It is not in you. You are not in it. There is no relationship because there is no separation. When you were a child, you knew this, not as knowledge, as reality. You did not think about being alive. You were not observing yourself from a distance. There was no watcher and watched. Just existence, flowing, seamless. And then language arrived, and with it, the split. You learned the word I, and in that moment something that was whole appeared to divide. The awareness that had no center suddenly seemed to have a location, a point of view, a self. And from that self the world became other. Your body became a boundary. Other people became separate. God became distant. The kingdom became somewhere else. This is not a fall in the biblical sense. It is a forgetting. A beautiful, necessary, heartbreaking forgetting. And what Jesus came to do was remind you, not through belief, not through theology, but through recognition. The Greeks who came after him had a word for this original, undivided reality. They called it the monad, the one, the source, the indivisible unity from which all appearance arises and to which all appearance returns. But here is what almost no one understands. Most people who encounter this term think they know what it means. They place it at the top of a hierarchy. They turn it into a concept, a stage of cosmology, the first being in a chain of creation. But that is the distortion. That is what happens when immediacy gets turned into theology. The real meaning is something else entirely, something that cannot be spoken about, without collapsing back into it. And that meaning is what Jesus protected by never naming it at all. The monad is not a concept. It is not the first emanation in a chain of spiritual beings. It is what you are before you think you are anything. It is the awareness that remains when every identity, every belief, every story falls away. And Jesus knew it. He lived from it. He spoke from it. But he did not explain it. Because the moment you try to teach someone about unity, you create a student and a teacher, a knower and a learner. You make the monad into an object, and the monad is not an object. It is the subject that cannot be objectified, the seer that cannot be seen, the ground that has no ground beneath it. You cannot point to it without collapsing back into it. So Jesus did something else. He became it, and he invited you to notice that you already are it too. But the way he invited you was dangerous, so dangerous that it forced a choice no institution could afford to make. Pause for a moment. If this feels confusing, that is natural. But if something inside you stirred, if this feels less like new information and more like recognition, then you are remembering. This teaching is not for everyone. It finds those who are ready. If that is you, like this video as a way of passing the flame to others who are searching. And in the comments write, I am remembering, not as a statement to me, but as a signal to those walking the same path. This is not about numbers. It is about resonance. Now let us continue. Listen to what Jesus said, not what the church said about him, not what theology made of his words 2,000 years later. Listen to him. I and the Father are one. The priests heard blasphemy. They heard a man claiming to be God. And in their framework, that was unforgivable. But that is not what he said. He did not say, I am God and you are not. He said, I and the Father are one. Not two things united, one thing appearing as two. Now here is where it becomes dangerous. This statement was heard in two completely different ways, and the way you hear it determines everything. It determines whether you need a church or whether the church becomes unnecessary. It determines whether you are saved by belief or whether you were never lost to begin with. One interpretation makes Jesus special, unique, the only begotten Son who stands between you and God. The other interpretation makes Jesus a demonstration, a reminder, a living proof that the separation you feel is not real and institutions had to choose. They could teach that Jesus was claiming a status that belongs to him alone, that he was declaring his divinity in a way that separates him from you forever, that you must believe in him to be saved because he is the bridge you can never cross yourself. Or they could teach what he said next, that they may be one as we are one. He prayed this over his disciples and over everyone who would come after them. Not that they would become one someday, not that unity would be earned through devotion or sacrifice, but that they would recognize the oneness that already is. As we are one, not as I became one, and you might too if you try hard enough. As we are. Present tense, already true, always true. He was not claiming a status you do not have. He was demonstrating a state you have forgotten. And then he said the line the church turned into poetry, but never into practice. The kingdom of God is within you, not coming, not distant, not waiting for you in heaven after you die. Within you, right now, not as a metaphor, as a location. The monad is not out there. It is not above. It is not hidden in ancient texts or locked behind prayers only the righteous can say. It is the ground of your own being. The awareness you are using right now to hear these words, the presence that has been here, your entire life, unchanged, untouched, watching everything come and go. That is it. That is the kingdom. That is the Father. That is the monad. And Jesus did not explain it because explanation would have turned it into theology, into something you study, something you believe in, something outside of you that you must reach for. He showed it instead, in His presence, in His peace, in the way He moved through the world without fear, without grasping, without the need to defend or prove or become. He was not trying to be the monad, He was living as it. You cannot build a church on that. You cannot create hierarchy, ritual, priesthood, or power structures around a teaching that says you do not need any of those things. The monad removes mediation. If the kingdom is within you, you do not need a priest to access it. If you and the Father are one, you do not need an institution to interpret God's will. If awakening is immediate and available right now, you do not need years of study, devotion, or submission to authority. You just need to stop. Stop believing. Stop seeking. Stop pretending you are separate. And the moment you do, it is obvious. But that kind of teaching collapses the entire structure. It ends dependence. It ends control. It ends the need for someone to stand between you and the divine and tell you what is true. You cannot control people who experience unity directly. You cannot sell salvation to someone who has realized they were never lost. You cannot build an empire on a teaching that says the kingdom is already here and you are already home. And so the teaching was changed, not erased, just reshaped, made safer. Turned into something you could believe in without experiencing, something you could talk about without becoming. The monad became the Father in heaven. Unity became submission. Awakening became salvation through blood sacrifice. And the immediacy that Jesus lived from was turned into a distant promise. You will be saved. You will be redeemed. You will enter the kingdom someday, after you die, if you believe the right things. But that is not what He taught. He taught presence. He taught now. He taught that the only thing standing between you and the kingdom is the belief that you are not already in it. And the moment that belief drops, everything changes. Not because something new arrives, but because you finally see what was always here. This is why He never explained it, because explanation would have required Him to create the very separation He came to dissolve. It would have turned immediacy into doctrine, presence into belief, recognition into religion. And so He protected it, by living it, by demonstrating it, by refusing to name it in a way that could be captured, controlled, and sold back to you as something you do not already have. But there is more to this. Here is what no one told you. Awakening is not addition, it is subtraction. You do not need more knowledge, more belief, more practices, more devotion. You need less. Less identity, less story, less insistence that you are the small, separate self moving through time, trying to get somewhere, trying to become something. Jesus did not save you from yourself. He showed you how to return to what you already are. And the path is not forward, it is inward, it is backward. It is the reversal of the movement that made you forget. You learned language, and you believed the self it created was real. You learned separation, and you believed God was somewhere else. You learned sin, and you believed you were broken. But none of that is true. You are not broken. You were never fallen. You do not need to be fixed or redeemed or made worthy. You need to remember, the monad is not a destination. It is not a state you achieve after years of meditation or prayer or purification. It is what remains when everything you think you are falls away, and it is always here. You have touched it before, in moments of stillness, in moments of beauty, in moments when the mind stopped and something deeper than thought looked through your eyes and recognized itself in everything. You called it peace, or grace, or love. But it was not any of those things. It was you, the real you, the you that was never born and will never die, the you that has no name, no history, no wounds, the you that is one with everything, because it was never separate to begin with. Jesus lived as that, and he invited you to do the same. Not by believing in him, not by worshiping him, not by making him into something distant and divine that you could never touch, but by recognizing that what he was, you are. That they may be one, as we are one. Not someday, now. And what comes next in the teachings will show you how Jesus encoded this knowing into actions, not beliefs, into ways of being that bypass the mind entirely and speak directly to the part of you that already knows, that already is, that has been waiting for you to stop long enough to notice. But first, you must see what this means. So here is the truth. The monad is not reached. It is remembered. The moment separation stops, it is obvious. You do not have to become it. You do not have to earn it. You do not have to purify yourself or prove yourself or wait for permission. You just have to stop insisting that you are something else. Stop defending the story. Stop protecting the identity. Stop believing the voice in your head that says you are small, separate, and alone. And in that stopping, what remains? Not emptiness, fullness. Not absence, presence. Not death, life. Eternal, immediate, undivided. This is what Jesus knew. This is what he lived. This is what the church could not teach because it would have dissolved the church. And this is what you are remembering right now. Not because I told you, but because something in you already knows. It is always known. It was just waiting for you to stop long enough to notice. But understand this. This is not the final teaching. It is the one that makes all others intelligible. Once you see the monad, every parable changes, every miracle becomes transparent. Every saying that seemed cryptic reveals itself as a direct pointer to what you already are. The teachings that follow from here are not new. They are the same teachings you have always heard. But now you will hear them differently, because you are remembering. You heard this teaching because you were ready. Not everyone will. Not everyone can. The monad does not reveal itself to those still committed to separation. It reveals itself to those who are done seeking and ready to see. You are one of them, and if that is true, then stay here. What you encountered here was not an opinion and not a belief. It was a way of seeing that cannot survive being turned into doctrine. That is why it was never explained, why it was softened, why it was turned into poetry instead of lived as immediacy. Jesus left behind other teachings like this, simple, precise, and impossible to scale without breaking them. Those teachings are gathered quietly in the sacred scrolls, not as answers, but as reminders for those who already see. And because remembrance does not unfold well in isolation, there is also a small private space, not a church, not a movement, just people living from this recognition, seriously and quietly. You will find both below. The monad is not a teaching. It is what you are. And the moment you stop resisting that, everything changes. Not because something new arrives, but because you finally see what was always here. This is not the end. This is the beginning of what you came here to remember. Welcome home.